The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Hello, Orangeville. Welcome back to the post office. I'm your host, Mayor Lisa Post. Today, I am very excited to be joined by one of the newest members of the town of Orangeville's municipal staff structure. So I want to introduce you to David Smith.
Hey, good evening. Thank you for having me on the show.
Thank you so much for being here. So for the community to know, David Smith is our brand new Chief Administrative Officer. He comes to us with tons of experience, which we'll go over, but I wanted to have the opportunity to really introduce him to you so you could see who's kind of leading the organization from that administrative side. So David, first I'll start off, if you can just explain to the community what a CAO is, what a Chief Administrative Officer does.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. In my head, the CAO, the Chief Administrative Officer, is the second coolest job in town. Being the mayor, of course, is the coolest job.
Thank you.
But the Chief Administrative Officer is the head of the administration. So all of the staff responsibilities and all of the things we do. So most people in the community, when they think about municipal services, they think about their mayor and they think about their neighbor who drives the ice resurfacer, down the road, and that's what they think of. But we're obviously much more diverse than that. Members of council and led by the mayor make up the elected group of our municipal government, and then there's the staff side of it. And I am actually the only employee of council as a whole, and I'm responsible. The CAO is responsible for staff and budget and all of the things that happen. So, as the only employee of council, all other municipal employees work through the CAO. So we do a diverse thing, as you know, lots of responsibilities and lots of services in municipal government. And I work really hard, and with my colleagues, we work really hard. Our job is threefold, I would say. One is to support council and do what council priorities are, and we're very responsive to what council says is the priorities of the community. So that's one of our main priorities. We do that by providing advice to council. As you know, Mayor Post, we meet twice a month typically with council and get direction from members of council. And we don't get direction specifically from an individual member. We get it from council as a whole, and they give that direction to me, and then through me the staff do all of the work. So it's an exciting job. We have incredibly diverse services that we provide in the municipality.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that. How many employees do we have at the town of Orangeville? How are they laid out? What's the structure of the organization look like?
Well, the number depends. It's a changing number, so it's about 300 employees with part-time and full-time. We have 3 departments that we are broken into. We have community services, which involves things like the library and recreation services, economic development, facilities and parks. So really broad when you think about, hey, what are the services that citizens interact directly with? That's a big bucket, community services. We have infrastructure services, which is when you think about roads and water and wastewater, planning, all of those types of, I would say, harder services, but no more important than our community services. We have that big bucket. And then we have corporate services, so things like our clerks area, our finance, communications, human resources. We're over $100 million business, so when you think about it in that scale, we have lots of different touch points for our staff.
Excellent. No, that's a really good explanation of it. And even broader than that, each of those buckets is divided into several different structures with lots of people underneath, and you get to manage the whole thing.
Yeah, I do. And that is so exciting. I've been really fortunate in my career. I've met incredibly smart people. And again, when you kind of peel back a little bit. In our organization, we have accountants, chartered professional accountants, we have engineers, we have firefighters, we have ice resurface drivers, our facility staff. We have administrative staff, we have creative staff in communications, we have staff that are experts in economic development. So every day I interact with this incredible array of super talented people, and each day is different. So it's an exciting place to work.
That's awesome. So before coming and joining us in Orangeville, where were you before? So if you want to tell the community just a little bit about yourself. Sure.
Well, I've got, on a personal level, I've got roots in Orangeville. My daughter was baptized at a local church. My kids went to Twisters as toddlers, as teenagers and college age and university age young adults. They had the opportunity to work for the town of Orangeville. We raised our family just outside of town. My kids learned to drive on a tractor and applied that. So, that's kind of the connection with Orangeville. We have been connected to Orangeville for literally decades. On a professional basis, I just came from the municipality of Port Hope. It's an incredible community just east of Toronto. It's in many regards it's similar to Orangeville. It's not as big. It's got some really good attributes, respect of heritage and things like that. And a really exciting project I worked on there is the largest environmental cleanup in Canadian history is actually happening in Port Hope today. It's been going on for a number of years. So that was, when you think about municipal government, we're thinking about environmental cleanup. It's a $2 billion project in Port Hope.
Wow.
Yeah, exciting.
Wow, that is exciting. So what was the population of Port Hope and what was the structure of their organization? Was it similar to ours? Did they have kind of the same services?
Yeah, very population, to answer your first question, about 17,000 people. Geographically, it was a large community. There's lots of rural, mainly rural. The corporate setup was different. Many of the same services, almost very, very similar services, but lots of departments and much smaller. So they were broken up different. Okay. So planning and development would have been a separate department, that type of thing. So it was an exciting community, but I'm delighted to be in Orangeville.
Well, we're glad to have you here, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, when coming into municipal government as a job, what led you that way? What was your path into the municipal world and public service?
Well, I'm a diehard proud bureaucrat. I've always worked in the municipal sector. I have a watch here. This is a long service watch that I was presented to by Mayor McCallion in Mississauga. So my career started in Mississauga as a check room attendant in the swimming pool.
Wow.
Back before lockers, used to hand you your basket of things to somebody and they would look after it. But, went through the very typical lifeguard swimming instructor and worked in Mississauga for a long, long time. And it was a really rich and enriching experience, and many of the people I work with there, when I talk about smart people in the municipal sector, many of them I'm still connected with. And in Mississauga, I actually had the opportunity to work for the Mississauga library system. So I have a strong passion for libraries and reading and books. My daughter's name is Bronte, and she's not named after a creek or a park. So, it was really, when I was working in aquatics where I realized the impact of community service and how we make lives in our local community better. And that kind of stuck with me. And I've stayed with that my entire career.
I find that interesting because I often hear of CAOs coming from the community services side, whether it be Parks and Rec or kind of that area, library services. And I wonder if a lot of it is because that's where the heart of community development really happens. Yeah. It's those soft services that bring communities together.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the skills that you develop, working with community members and advancing through partnerships and responding to community needs, I think for many of people of that part in their career, it's either something that they say, hey, this isn't for me, and they go somewhere else, or they say, hey, I find this really enriching and engaging. I want to continue on that journey. And you make these connections. You're a professional connector and facilitator and partner. And that's what we do in community services, and that's what we do in local government.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you worked at Mississauga in a time where Mississauga was in probably the peak of its growth.
Crazy growth.
So what was that like? How did that,
It was an exciting time, and we had 6,000 employees. So, the scale of that was just, it's hard to even fathom the growth and development that was happening in the community. We were having a hard time keeping up building things like recreation complexes. And we're not building one, we're building 3 or 4 at the same time. So really it's exciting time leading many of the things that Mississauga was known for, that they're still known for. I don't have my master's in public administration, but I say in my head and in my heart, I earned it by working in Mississauga because we were exposed to so many different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So then after Mississauga, I believe you went to Saugeen Shores, right?
Well, I had a stop in Waterloo.
Okay.
Yeah, I worked in Waterloo, and what exciting times in Waterloo. Just before I came, so I didn't raise the bar, but just before I came, they were voted the most intelligent community in the world.
Wow.
Right?
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And when you think about, what was happening in Waterloo with the post-secondary institutions, with RIM, Blackberry, that type of thing, and the energy of students in the community and terrific things going on. I was right there at when the RIM had challenges and saw that. But that helps inform your future career, because I learned about economic development and diversifying the workforce, and tragic for RIM and for many people involved in that organization, but the resiliency of that local economy to take all of those employees and they almost all got jobs instantly in another startup company or something in the tech sector. So that was, again, really exciting. I'm so lucky. Like you've heard me say, Mayor, Monday is the best day of the week.
Yep.
And I say that, I hope none of my staff are listening. I say that a little bit tongue in cheek, but I love what I do, and I think everybody should love what they do. And as the CAO and as the mayor, with council support and my colleagues on senior leadership team, if we can create an organization where Monday is the best day of the week, how exciting is that, right? And that's what we're going to try and do. Create this organization where people come in with spring in their step and go home a little bit tired. And my employment experience has always been like that. I love what I do. That's so awesome. Fortunate. Yeah.
That's so great. So that's a really good note for us to take a little break. So stick around, come back just after the short break. We'll see you back in a couple minutes.
Summer days, summer nights, lots of things to do, places to go, and people to see. If you're having a few drinks, be sure to plan ahead and get home safely. We don't want to pick you up. Drinking drivers risk injuries to themselves and others and take chances with their license, their jobs, and their future. Remember what's at stake and choose your ride, whether you're the driver, the passenger, or the party host. Thanks for supporting Sober Driving. I hope we never meet.
Visit arrivealive.org to find out more.
Welcome back to the post office. Thanks for joining us. If you're just joining us after the break, I want to introduce you to the town of Orangeville's new CAO, which is Chief Administrative Officer, David Smith. Welcome back again after the break, David.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me back after the break.
No, glad you're here. And we've talked a little bit about David's experience, but we're going to turn it over to Saugeen Shores. That was the one municipality we missed.
Sure. Well, I worked in Saugeen Shores, and the viewers will think that I've been very lucky because I have. In today's market and in the employment time over the last 10 years, we've really been able to be selective. I've really been able to be selective where I've chosen to work, and Saugeen Shores was a choice. So I worked in Saugeen Shores in Bruce County on beautiful Lake Huron.
It's gorgeous up there.
It is gorgeous, and it was a really interesting time in Saugeen Shores. Bruce Power is located there. We're and are going through a major component replacement program. It was at the time the largest infrastructure project in Canada.
Wow.
And was a 20-year project. So the growth that was happening in Saugeen Shores and our opportunity to tap into it was just, when I think back about it, I go, wow, what an incredible time. So it's a community of about 16,000 people. We attracted companies like Rolls-Royce to set up, not the car division, but the engineering division, the motors and turbines of Rolls-Royce.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Yeah, SNC Lavalin, Hatch, these international companies were coming to Saugeen Shores, this community of 16,000, and we really embraced that. And with council support and the community support, incredible growth. The team up there did really remarkable work in areas of economic development, areas of communication. They won national awards. They won international awards. Started the first municipal podcast in Canada.
That's very cool.
And got, at the time, the staff came in and said, hey, can we do a podcast? And I said, sure. I had no idea what a podcast was, but it was really well received. So beautiful community. They have so much opportunity there through Bruce Power and the clean energy that Bruce Power generates.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So it's no secret then that you come to us with an absolute wealth of experience.
Yeah.
So we're very, very fortunate to have you here in Orangeville.
Oh, thank you.
So let's talk about Orangeville a little bit. Let's
Sure.
look forward. And I know that you're very new, so I'm not going to put you on the spot with all the tough questions.
Yeah.
But in your first, what have you been, 8 weeks, something around that?
6 weeks, I think,
weeks?
yeah.
So what do you think? You're in the community now. You've kind of started to open the drawers and see what's going on behind the curtain.
Yeah.
So what do you think? What do you think is next on the horizon for us?
Well, I think opportunity and bright future are words that come out. We had a staff event today, and you were there, as all members of council were, and we appreciate that. And we were recognizing a former chief administrative officer. And I think that when we reflect back to the spot we're at, it's because of investments of former staff, and former elected officials and current ones that got us to this wonderful opportunity. And I mentioned earlier that in my role, I have the opportunity to work and choose in different communities to work at. And I chose Orangeville for what I thought was the right reasons, and they are the right reasons.
Well,
right?
that's good.
Yeah. What I'm finding is that our staff are highly engaged, our elected officials are supportive, they're responsive to citizens as they should be. They provide clear direction to us. When I read the strategic plan, Mayor Post, it really resonated with me. And one of the reasons, and I think I've said this to you, is that it looks to the future. It respects the past and embraces the past, but it doesn't hang us up on the past. Mm-hmm. It looks to the future, and that's why I think Orangeville has got a bright future. We're a good community, even better. That's not the right adjective. I was going to say it's good going to great. It's great going to greater, and I think that's the future. Staff team has been excellent. I've met with the some of the key individuals in our community. I met with the executive director of the BIA, and her enthusiasm and all of the things that she shared and we talked about were exactly what I predicted. So how smart am I?
No, that's great. And you're right. As you meet with some of the community leaders around our community, that's exactly what you're going to find. Is you're going to find a highly engaged group of people that are all invested in trying to make Orangeville the absolute best that it can. And it seems to me, and as a fairly new mayor, it really seems to me that everybody's working towards the same goal, which I think is excellent. Everybody has the same ideologies of preserving the heritage that we have in especially our downtown core, and respecting where we come from, but really looking towards brightening it up and looking towards the next step.
Yeah, I would agree with you. My experience with council has been very positive. There's a diversity on council, which I think is excellent. It gives different perspective, which is what you want. We want different perspectives and different opinions. Our staff team is getting more diverse every single day, and that enriches all of us. So I think the future is bright. Of course, we like any community. There's challenge. Any community in Ontario, there's challenges with infrastructure deficits, and right now we're struggling with supply chain issues and contractors not being able to supply things. We're receiving vehicles today that we ordered in 2021. So you order a fire truck or a roads vehicle, and it takes 2 or 3 years to get them. So it's changing how we have to operate.
It definitely has, and I think it's made our elected council and staff teams be a little bit more purposeful in our planning when it comes to budgeting. And we've seen, losing my words, we're seeing big increases in everything that we're trying to do in costs. Inflation is crazy. It's probably one of the highest inflations I've seen, and it's impacting everything that we do. So we're seeing it with our big builds, with our infrastructure.
Yeah. Could I just comment
Please.
a little bit on inflation? So most people think CPI, raise taxes, CPI, the consumer price index.
Yep.
I'm not buying a lot of butter, right? I'm not buying a lot of eggs. These are things that factor into that basket of goods for a consumer. We don't buy those things. The municipal government, we're buying steel, we're buying concrete, we're buying asphalt. We're buying a completely different basket of goods. So the comparison of a consumer price index, or that CPI, is much different from the reality of what we're buying. So things like a construction price index is more appropriate as a comparison. So when we advance budget, we're going to speak with council and our community about the difference of that, and how using the CPI as a benchmark isn't really reflective of the reality of our existence.
I think that's a really great point, and one that isn't being talked about. So I think that's excellent.
Yeah, I don't quote me.
No.
There's no one listening to our conversation. But I think the construction price index last year, the year before, was almost 19% in 1 year. So the things that we're buying are going up 19% in a single year.
Yeah, it's making us think differently about how we're planning when we do our 5-year operating budget and our 10-year capital. It's really changing the way we're thinking about it. We're having to be very proactive, especially about fleet vehicles like fire trucks that are taking us 2 and 3 years to get now, instead of the turnaround that used to be 6 or 8 months.
Yeah, they were going up 1% a month. Fire vehicles, and it's $1 million vehicle, and it's taking you 2 or 3 years to get delivery on it. It's problematic.
Absolutely. So you've told me all the stuff you really like about the job. Now tell me what's the hardest part about the job as a CAO, and with this municipality or with any of your past municipalities. What's the hardest part of the job? The hardest
part of the job is Saturdays and Sundays. Just kidding. Building on that Mondays is the greatest day of the week. I think the hardest part of the job is in our community. There's a lot of smart people. And there's a lot of observant people, and there's a lot of people that have ideas, and we see that with community groups and committees and things like that. And they come up with these great ideas, and they're wonderful ideas. And the hardest part of the job, the most frustrating part of the job is having to say, hey, we can't do that. We have 100 good ideas, or even 10 or 15, but we do have a work plan. We do have a budget. We can't drop our work plan because there's a good idea or something. So that can be frustrating because you know in your heart it's a good idea, but there's this long queue of good ideas. And with engaged citizens, those good ideas come regularly. So, you know, part of I think what we need to do is have mechanisms to take these good ideas and get somebody else to do them. Mm-hmm. You know, get a community group or get the citizen that recommended it or one of our task committees or something like that, because we don't want to go to waste. We don't want to leave them behind, but we have core work that we have to do. We mentioned earlier we're running over $100 million business. You know, there's roads that need to be fixed, there's fires that need to be put out, there's services that need to be done every single day. We don't have staff dedicated to implementing new ideas.
No, that's exactly right. That's a very good point. And we do have a very interesting group of community members who do really want to see those changes happen. So that is a really difficult one. And I know in this kind of day and age where we've been talking a lot about affordable housing, and I know I've heard a lot of really great ideas coming out of other municipalities, but you're right, it's very hard to drop everything and pick one of them up.
Yeah, because tomorrow there's another good idea. So yeah. I believe in an adage I learned from a mentor of mine, hope is not a plan. And that's something I almost say to myself every single day. And hoping something will happen is not a plan, but to get something done, you need a plan. And if you don't kind of stick to the plan, you're never going to get to the end. So it's important with council direction and council support. Staff have a plan, that we implement the plan, that we achieve the plan. We do all of those things. And if we can build some capacity in to be responsive to some of the ideas, that's great. But I think also we need to look for partners to help us achieve some of those things that come up outside of the plan.
Absolutely. Well, I am so looking forward to working with you and continuing to work alongside you. I think we've already built a really great relationship with yourself and all of council, and I think that we're working towards a lot of the really same things. So I'm so glad that you're part of the Orangeville team. I'm so glad that you chose us to work with. I'm glad that you took the time today to introduce yourself to the community, and we got 30 seconds left before we got to go, so I'll give you final goodbye.
Well, goodbye, but you know, thank you very much. I give you great credit and members of council credit to the community that you're building. It's clear that you are all very passionate and you're all in it for the right reasons, and that is so reassuring to see. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, and thank you for being here, and thank you guys for joining the post office today. We'll see you back in a couple of weeks. Take care.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line, email us, or connect with us on social media.
Hi, I'm Angel Morgan, host of Raising Energy on Rogers TV. Join us this week with our live studio audience for psychic readings that are fun and fast-paced just for you.
Sports fans know Sundays are for football. That's why you need NFL Sunday tickets. With NFL Sunday Ticket, you'll get every